Today my guest is Randy Pagels. Randy.
Hey, David, how are you?
I'm doing great. How you doing?
Thanks for having me back.
It's been a long time.
It has been.
What's this I hear about lab management? I've been hearing a lot of buzz around this product.
What have you been hearing about it?
I hear it's awesome.
It is awesome.
Tell me, what is lab management?
So, lab management is part of Visual Studio, right? The family. Lab management's part of the Test Professional edition. I talked about on a previous show that the manual test case management tool. Mm-hmm. Under the hood is a piece called the lab management piece. Okay. Right? There's the testing center for test cases. There's the lab center for lab management and virtual environment maintenance.
Okay, let's find out who owns this thing. So if I own a Test Professional, then I own lab management, right?
Test Professional has lab management. Visual Studio Ultimate has lab management.
If I own Visual Studio Ultimate, then I have lab management, right? Or own either of those two products that I have lab management.
Either of those two products are on lab management.
Okay, so, all right. So what do I own?
So what do you own?
If I own lab management.
So what you own is you own this awesome piece of software that allows you to create virtualized environments. Generally speaking, testing organizations have a room set up of dozens of machines, right? And they're ghosted at night. They're reset to run tests on, and builds are deployed. And
virtual machines. Yeah.
Well, virtual machines or physical machines. I've seen both, right?
Right.
The idea with lab management is to have a virtualized library of machines that you can pull from to put together an environment, to spin the environment up, and then deploy tests to and test in. Ideally, you'd have a tester test in that environment and a developer debug in the same environment. So how cool is that? No more of this worked on my machine.
Why is that important?
Well, it's important because the tester is now finding bugs in the software on the same exact, as close to production-like they can get in an environment that's virtualized. Where now a debugger, a developer will debug that application in the same exact environment the bug was found in the first place.
Okay.
So it doesn't really, the bug wouldn't, let's say, not manifest itself on a developer's machine because of some special DLL he has installed or something like that.
Oh, sure, yeah. Or maybe the developer doesn't have IIS. I mean,
right.
I've been guilty of that myself. I test in, I forget what they're called, Cassini these days, but the Visual Studio web server, I think is the official name.
Yeah.
And it's sort of a mini version of IIS. Well, some things just don't work in that. They work differently in IIS.
They work differently, right. So
I'm testing on Windows 7, whereas the app might be deployed on Windows Server.
Correct. Yep.
So the idea is to get everybody on the same page, the developer, the tester, and production all working in the same environment.
Well, that's one way. The idea there is a tester would create, the idea is that lab management uses System Center Virtual Machine Manager, right, in conjunction with. Okay. And it all comes licensed together, so it all works together. Yeah. The idea is to have some virtual machines already set up in the library. A tester or a testing organization would create an environment with as close to production as possible, right, and then use that for their tests. At night, they have let's say they have a nightly build test deploy kind of a workflow going with their team build from Team Foundation Server. Therefore, they come in the morning, the testers have this nice clean environment set up for them to run tests. If they file bugs from that environment to the developers, the actual environment itself is attached, is one of the attachments now in this bug, as well as all the other rich information such as the video recording, the system information, the debugging information called the teletrace, the action logs, everything that they took, like we talked about in the previous show, right, in addition to the snapshot of that environment so they can go back to it and debug code from that point forward.
How important is this when you're testing a client application and you don't really have any control over what the client software, operating system, or browser is going to be?
You would have to create probably multiple environments with different combinations, right? So if you're talking about a Windows 7 with maybe an IE7 or an IE8 browser perhaps, you can have that as one of your machines in this multi-machine environment.
Okay.
So you could spin up multiple environments. The beauty of lab management is the team build can control which systems are in this environment, which environments to spin up and spin down according to the tests they're going to run. And then we can run these, we talked earlier about coded UI tests and automation tests. How cool it would be just to pick those tests up, put them into an environment at night, and run them automatically, report back in the morning.
Okay, so you could test them, you could have one running on a Windows XP machine that's got IE6 on it, that's probably have very different bugs would manifest themselves than one running Windows 7 with the latest version of IE9, for example.
Possibly as an example.
Maybe you want to test both of those.
You want to test both of those, right. So the beauty about...
I understand there are other browsers out there in the universe as well.
We support Firefox, not a problem. IE9. The idea with lab management is to be able to quickly provision environments, spin those environments up, run tests on them, report the tests back into Team Foundation server, and then shut those environments down. And to think of the time it takes to do that manually, that this could be an automated thing nightly. So some testing organizations are using this and really adopting this technology now to go ahead and really speed up their whole build and test, their whole build, deploy, test scenarios in these environments.
Okay, so I think about these nightly builds and using a tool like MS Build. Generally what I do is we get the latest code from source control, from TFS. We compile it. If it compiles, then we deploy it out to some folder somewhere. We run a series of automated unit tests on that, and maybe some integration tests as well. And you're saying there's another step in between there, where instead of just deploying it out to a folder, we're actually going to build up or select a virtual machine and deploy it to a specific virtual machine in order to test it on a given operating system with a given amount of memory and a given amount of a specific configuration.
Correct.
Okay.
You can, there's a special team build template that knows how to talk to virtualized environments, deploy code using any of your favorite deployment tools, MS Deploy, Xcopy, whatever you use today.
Right.
You use it in the build template to export code from, that's been compiled and tested and unit tested and so forth. You take that code and put it out, deploy it out to a virtualized environment with the tests. So I'm talking about coded UI tests, the UI automation tests, and to run and then automatically run through all those tests.
Okay. What's the licensing involved in that? Do I need if I'm building up a machine with Windows Server, do I need licenses for that?
The lab management is licensed. It comes licensed with Visual Studio Ultimate or Test Professional. It also requires System Center Virtual Machine Manager, which has a limited license for that as well.
Okay.
System Center can only be used with lab management with that license.
Okay.
On a server to build up the lab management itself.
Okay, so the servers that I'm building, they're just temporary servers. They're just used for testing. I don't need to have licenses for the operating systems on those. Is that what you're telling me?
No, I'm not saying that.
Oh, okay. Do you know the answer to that question?
I do know the answer to that question. The operating systems that are inside the virtual machines themselves, however your licensing works for MSDN. Generally speaking, all MSDN licenses allows you to develop and test in the world of MSDN, right?
Okay.
So you can build as many and deploy out as many virtual machines in an environment as you need, as long as you're the owner of the MSD license that are doing that.
Okay.
Okay. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. Okay. It's an important question. People ask
it is a very important question. So if you're spinning up 20 virtual machines, that's 20 operating system licenses.
Okay. Who's the target audience for this product?
The target audience is application development teams that want to very quickly, in the world of Agile, as you know, the faster you can go through your cycles of testing, the better quality application you have at the end. So the target audience would be an organization that wants to, maybe they have a QA department that wants to automate the UI automation piece into multiple environments and have it done for them, provisioned for them, tested for them, have that environment tore down for them automatically every single night once they're doing the automation testing piece.
Okay, so it's designed to really get faster feedback on
much faster feedback
on the application, any potential defects.
Well, and another thing it does is it saves on hardware utilization. So if you have testing areas or testing teams that have 5, 6, 7, 12 machines sitting there running, they can shut all those off and use a one machine lab management for all the virtualization. So from a hardware utilization standpoint, it saves time and money there as well. Not to mention the reconstruction of the testing environment that might be done every Thursday for the next Monday's testing. It takes 2 days for somebody to set it up and install all the components they need. It could potentially save a lot of time.
Yeah, what's the virtualization technology? Is it Hyper-V or is it Virtual PC?
I thought you'd never ask. The virtualization technology is Hyper-V.
Okay, so that's to run on Windows Server.
It has to run on Windows Server 2008 R2.
Okay.
Hyper-V is a virtualization technology. Now, that being said, when we talk about lab management, controlling and spinning up a virtualized environment, we're talking about Hyper-V.
Okay.
That being said, though, lab management can also build and deploy and test out to physical machines. So if you had some physical machines out there, you can still use lab management to wrap around those machines to deploy to.
Okay. When you say deploying to these virtual machines, is my automated build process, is it going to actually build up the machines, or are we going to have machines sort of sitting there blank and we're going to deploy to them? You understand what I'm asking?
You talking about the virtual machines?
Yeah. When you have a virtual machine, am I going to, if I have a nightly build, I want to deploy to a virtual machine that's running, let's say, Server 2008 R2. Am I going to create that virtual machine, install an operating system as part of my automated build process, or am I going to have a blank, basically a machine with just a raw operating system and minimal software and deploy my code to it?
Good question. You're going to have part of the System Center framework is to create virtual machines.
So it actually creates them on the fly.
These machines are created ahead of time.
Oh, okay, right.
They're created ahead of time and stored in a library, a library of machines. So you may have a machine that has Windows Server 2008 R2 on it, nothing. It's syspref, meaning that its identity is stripped away, right?
Right.
Let's just say that's an option. A Windows 7 machine, a Windows XP machine. You might have a IIS machine, a SQL Server machine. You have all these in the library. When you need to create an environment, you pull a client machine, you pull down an IIS machine, you pull down a database machine. Now you have a 3-machine environment that you spin up and shut down.
Okay, so then we're basically creating copies of those machines.
You're
we're
creating
installing
copies.
things on those machines, installing our code on those machines, testing them, and then when we're done, we can throw them away because, or we just
when you're done,
archive them, of course. But the next time we get another machine, we're going back to our original bare bones copy.
If you need to create another environment with a different kind of configuration, you go back to the library. Okay. Otherwise, these environments stay put. Now remember,
well, I'm thinking of tomorrow night when I do my automated build. Tomorrow with slightly different code, because the code that I checked in the last 24 hours. Then I'm going to deploy it to a brand new copy that I get from the library.
That's not correct. That's not true.
Correct. Okay.
No, that's not true. The idea is you create an environment once.
Okay.
You do a snapshot of the environment.
Okay.
Now you have a clean state, right? When you do your builds at night and you deploy out to the virtual machine, the virtual environment, you're at a clean state.
Okay.
The next night when you do that, you roll it back to the previous snapshot of a clean state.
That's a rollback.
And you keep going forward as you go.
Okay.
Now what's also very nice to know is we can do snapshots after the deploy.
Mm-hmm.
The reason that's important is if a developer wants to, let's say a developer wants to debug some code from 3 builds ago in this environment that's been checkpointed back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
Because we checkpoint the post-deploy area, a scenario, a developer can go back 3 builds and debug something.
Okay.
Trying to do that today in a physical world is very difficult to deploy a build from 3 builds ago.
This is just a feature of System Center and Hyper-V.
It's a feature of System Center Hyper-V, the rollback feature.
Right.
Now, just to be clear, you can't do that in physical machines. We cannot do that on VMware machines as well.
Okay.
And just to add one more thing to that, we do handle, our lab management product will work with VMware machines treated as physical machines. So we can still get the full benefits of doing a build, a deploy, a test around the physical machines.
Okay. All
Okay.
right.
You'll have
So
to
if
do
you've got an investment in VMware already, you still can use this tool.
If you have an investment in VMware, yes.
Okay.
Now a lot of
You don't get
customers.
the snapshot and the rollback part of it is what you don't get.
That's correct. You do not get snapshot rollback with lab management on VMware machines.
Got it.
Now another thing to know here is another option is the lab management with Hyper-V can be used in the development testing world, and even if a customer is if the customer's standard is VMware machines for production, that's okay, because lab management is really in the world of build, test, deploy.
Okay.
Right, in the whole life cycle of creating applications and quality. So point being, the nutshell of that point being is use the lab management piece with Test Professional piece of Visual Studio in your whole development testing world before releasing it to production.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
That does make sense. What else?
What else you got, Dave? I hope you learned a little bit about lab management today.
I did. What if I want to learn more? Is there an online resource to go to?
The online resource would be the same thing, Microsoft.com/Visual Studio.
Uh-huh.
There's a whole area of the Visual Studio product line from Professional and Premium, Ultimate, Test Professional, and Lab Management.
Nice.
Yeah.
Right.
So thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate that. Now say something else. I have a lot of friends that I show this wonderful lab management technology to, and they absolutely love it.